Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Garp saved the boa and her sister, and they lived with Luffy? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Night Whispery for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story. Link in the description. In some anonymous island at the Calm Belt, we find Luffy with his little sister Mai, and his mother to spend a usual and quiet day as they just finished their training. As usual, after the training, the three of them go for a treat as a reward for the good job. Luffy Neeson is very strong, Mai said with a big grin as she throw herself at her father, while Luffy take her piggyback and carry her, making him blush, and their mother to smile at her daughter's antics with a sweet smile. Can you please stop saying such embarrassing things? Luffy said to his little sister, frowning. The three of them continue to walk until they reach the center of the island where all the stores are. As their mother has promised, they enter in a shop and they take 3 ice creams before they leave to return back to their home. After some minutes they reach their home and Luffy go for a shower as he was dirty and sweat from the training. The house isn't huge, but still it's enough big and warm with moments of laugh, joy and love. After some minutes Luffy has finished his bath, and after he get dressed he go to find his mother and his little sister. But to his surprise he find also his grandpa, who has long time to see. Hey Gramps. Nice to see you again. Luffy say to him with a big grin on his face. How is my 2 grandchildren? Garp asked as he run and hug both Luffy and Mai, making Luffy to protest and Mai to shout from joy. Come on Garp, the food is ready, Rose said to him as Garp put down the kids and run to the table drooling. Rose and Luffy serve the food as Garp start to protest that his portion is too small, making Mai and Luffy to laugh while Rose shake her head irritate from old man idiocy. The lunch was noisy as always when Garp decide to pay a visit to see his grandchild, and Rose as his son is rarely here. So, how is my son doing? Garp asked Rose now that they're alone since the kid go for a nap. Garp, please don't start again, Rose say to him smirking. Come on Rose, don't tell me that it doesn't bother you. He is an admiral for God's sake, and you were the best assassin in history, Garp say to her sighing. Yes I was, and your point is? Rose asked him. My point, Rose, is that even my idiotic son can't be so fool to see that the world is corrupt as hell even if he is a marine. I also fear that sooner or later they'll find who are you and they will come after you and my grandkids, Garp say to her as Rose's eyes start to burn like inferno. I know that, Garp, but don't fool yourself. If someone dare to touch even a hair of my kids, I'll get him. I may gave up my old life when I had Luffy and Mai, but I didn't forget how to fight. The person that will dare so much to threaten my kids will sign his death sentence, Rose say to him as Garp look at her and nod his head. Rose? Garp ask her. Yes, Garp? Rose say as he look at him. I don't say that I don't believe you nor that you'll not protect your kids, only a fool will believe that. But let me ask you something and don't take it wrong, Garp say to her as she nod him to continue. Garp sigh and look at her in the eyes. How long do you have to wield a sword? Garp asked her as Rose raised an eyebrow. I'll train every day, Luffy, for 2 years already, Rose answered him. Let me rephrase it then. How long do you have to fight against a serious opponent? Garp asked her as Rose had the meaning. Too long, Rose simply say to him as Garp nod his head. You afraid that my skills are start to rust and that I start to lose the killing instinct? Rose say to him, but Garp didn't say anything and remained silent, although Rose understand very well that he didn't need to say anything. She know him very well now. Garp, Rose say to him with gentle voice as the old man look at her and nod. If something happens to me, I want to take the kids to Amazon Lily. The previous empress owns me a favor, and also this place is pretty much protected and isolate, Rose say to him as Garp's eyes widen. I know the island. I saved 3 girls from there not too long ago. But Rose, what about Luffy? Do you believe that he'll be welcome there? Garp asked her. I really don't know, Garp. I mean, Luffy may seems the happy-go-lucky kid, especially around Mai, but there are times when I catch a shadow in his eyes. He is the person that will close his feelings into a bottle for the sake of the others. I know that Mai will have Luffy to ease her pain, and also her age will help, but Luffy is entirely another story, Rose say to him with a solemn look as Garp nod his head and stand beside her. What is that you fear? Garp asked her. Rose sigh and look at the direction that is the kids' room. I fear that if something happens to me that Luffy will not be the same anymore. I fear that my only son maybe don't smile ever again. I fear that if something happens to me it will ruin his life, Rose said as a single tears dropped down to her cheek. You know better than anyone that Mai is more than her father while Luffy have my character. He can suffer and bleed inside but he will smile and laugh it off for the sake of his little sister or mine, Rose continued to say as Garp nodded his head and put a hand on Rose's shoulder. Of course Garp knows this. His grandson wants to look strong and he'll protect everyone with his life even if he slowly dies inside him from the pain. He'll laugh and joke like a madman to make everyone smile even if inwardly want nothing more to cry and curse. He'll hug everyone, shield them from any pain and tell them that all is at the past even if he wants nothing more than to go and butcher everyone and he'll do it. He will do exactly that when nobody is there to see him. He may wait for a day, a month, a year, hell even 10 years, but in the end he will have his revenge. He always have his revenge exactly as his mother because she haven't named by accident Bloody Rose. Let's go to take Mai's birthday cake, Rose, before this little monsters start to wake up, Garp say to her with a gentle smile as she smile and nod her head and leave the house. After some minutes they're back and Rose put the cake in the fridge while the kids start to wake up. As always Luffy has piggybacked Mai as for some reason she finds it cute to make Luffy embarrassment, and besides she knows very well that her big brother may protest and frown but he will do everything for her at the end of the day. Both Rose and Garp smile at the image, but inwardly they still remember their previous talk and the image that just saw proves exactly both Rose said and Garp knows very well. After Mai is satisfied she just stepped down from Luffy's back, kiss her big brother at the cheek while asks from her mother a snack, leaving the little boy to blush and more oblivious than ever about what just happened while Garp start to laugh thinking poor boy. Luffy start walk towards Garp smiling but for some reason Garp start feeling a chill run towards his spine. He sit beside his grandpa while the old man look at the young boy trying to read him. For the sake of my sister I'll not say anything but, if something happens to my mother while you're here, and you don't save her I'll never forgive you, Luffy say to him, while he look at the kitchen where his little sister and his mother is, and still smiling. Garp from the other hand look at the little boy with widened eyes knowing very well that he utterly means what he just said to him. The only question that remains is how the boy was able to hear what not long ago both him and Rose has said. But before he can ask Luffy stand up and walks towards the kitchen but before he enter he stops and look back at his grandfather with a look that Garp has never seen before or not? No, he has not seen before that look in Luffy's eyes but he has saw it many times at the past in Luffy's mother. Yes, he has seen that inferno many times in Rose's eyes when she was more than pissed but never to that level and never in a small child. An inferno that can burn hotter than the hell himself. Then can incinerate not just an enemy, but the whole world if someone dare to challenge that person. And at this very moment Garp start to realize that both Rose and himself there greatly underestimate that boy. Luffy can be a very dangerous man if something bad happen and lose himself in it. Luffy continued to walk as he finally enters the kitchen with a big grin on his face as nothing ever happened and look at his two true treasures, his loving mother and his adorable innocent little sister. Because yes, these two are his true treasures whatever the world may think or say. Luffy niece and I kept that for you, Mai said as she run towards him with her plate and give to him her half sandwich making Luffy to look at her with widened eyes. You don't want it, Mai? Luffy asked her as she shake her head. No, I keep that for my strong Nizen, Mai say to him as Luffy is now redder than a tomato. What's the matter with all Nizen thing? Luffy asked her annoyed but not really as Mai don't bother to answer him at all and struck out her tongue making Luffy to murmur various things while Rose start giggle to their antics with a soft and sweet tone. They four of them spend the noon as usual. Rose has taken Luffy for training while now that Garp is here he stayed with Mai to play. For his bad luck Mai decided to have a tea party and the poor Garp didn't have another choice that to comply. The old man start really feel what his poor grandson have to endure every day and he didn't want to be at his seat at all. With Luffy and Rose. Luffy, despite that he only practiced swordsman for only 2 years, he have a natural talent for it, and Rose can't be any happy and proud than already is. He was able to learn countless techniques as also her two personal favorites. But not only that, he start to invent his own technique taking pieces of those two styles and combine them making an entirely whole new technique that is more deadly than any of them. After 2 hours they finish their practice, and they decide to return home to see in what condition the poor Garp is. Luffy starts suddenly to laugh as Rose look at him with a raised eyebrow. What is it, Luffy? Rose asks him with a gentle smile as he look at her. Sorry, it's nothing, I'm just happy Shishishi that someone else Shishishi will have to endure a broken pride, he said as he burst into a laugh, not able to hold it anymore, while Rose started to laugh too, knowing very well what her son needs. After some minutes they reached the house, and indeed what they see make them to fall and roll at the floor laughing. At the center of the room was Mai with her new victim, Jaikin, and they have a tea party, as the once feared by many monkey. D. Garp while the poor man have a variety of jewels, makeup and a bright red lipstick, and at his face a look of terror. Yes, the almighty monkey. D. Garp has been utterly defeated and his pride has severe damage by his 4-year-old granddaughter. Luffy walked towards his sister and pat her on the head. Come on, Mai, let's go to the playground, and I'll swing you if you want. Luffy say her as Mai didn't need to think it twice. She hugs her brother as Luffy smile and nod his head to his gramps as if saying you own me one, and take his sister and leave. Something tells me that I'll pay dearly that favor, Garp says as he sigh while Rose put an arm to his shoulder and smiled to him. He could easily take a picture of you in this state, but instead he choose to free you. What of those two you prefer? Rose asked him with a mischievous smile, making Garp to gasp and widen his eyes. I'll take the second option every day any day, Garp say to her as she nod her head and smile. After an hour or so the two kids has returned with Mai pouting and Luffy clearly in a very bad mood, something that didn't go unnoticed by the Rose and Garp. Come on Neeson, please talk to me, Mai say to her brother, pout even more. Mai, please, I'm not in a mood right now. Go play with Gramps, or Ma, Luffy say to her, not looking her at all. Luffy Neeson is hating me, Mai said as she start to whimper, making Luffy to panic. What? I don't hate you, moron. You're my cute little adorable sister. Luffy say to her as Mai stops and tackle him to the ground while she hug him, embarrassing him once more again. Yeah, my Neeson loves me, Mai shout as she throw her fists at the air while once again Luffy blush and murmur various curse. Alright, what was this time? Rose say and look at Luffy. Why you look at me? Luffy protests with sharp tooth, making everyone to laugh. Because I know my son? Rose asked him as she raised an eyebrow, making Luffy to sigh. Some stupid kid pushed Mai while we wait on the line for the swing, and she fell down. Luffy say to her as she and Garp start to sweat drop. And he's still with us? Garp asked him fearfully, making Luffy to look at him with narrowed eyes. Of course he's still with us, he said as both Rose and Garp sigh relieved. I just beat him to a bloody pulp. That will teach him some manners next time. Luffy continued to say as they start to sweat drop again. You know that you have a sis con, Garp said laughing, but the moment the words left his mouth the temperature in the room feel like dropped 10 degrees. Say that one more time, Luffy said as a dark and menacing aura start to emit from him, making Garp to gulp and cowering in fear, shaking his hands innocently. I thought so, Luffy say to him as the aura disappear while Mai look at him with stars in her eyes, making everyone to laugh and the little girl to pout. After some minutes the dinner was ready, and this try Garp tried to behave himself. The key word is try. Although he wasn't the usually loud and disgusting Garp as always, he still have absolutely no table manners of how a person can eat politely without throwing the food all over the place. Rose and Luffy just sigh while Mai as always find it cool how a person's stomach can be a completely bottomless like a black hole. Nope, there is no help. Garp is utterly hopeless in that subject, and Luffy start to pray to whatever god is upon there that his little sister didn't heritage old man manners, because then he'll sure have a heart attack. The dinner has finished after some hours and it is time for sleep for the two young ones. Mai is already sleeping as Luffy take her at his arms and put her on the bed to sleep as he goodnight everyone, while Rose came after a while to give them a goodnight kiss. Tomorrow is a big day. It's Mai's birthday and I'll be damned if I don't make her to enjoy that day. Luffy start to thinking with a fire determination and a soft smile on his face. After all, he only has one sister and she means the world to him. The morning came and today's day is completely dedicated to Mai as it is her birthday. So there will be no training session today, and also a very nice surprise, or not? Rose and also Garp has wake up early to prepare various things for the party. Today Mai will turn 5 and it is something that all of them wants to enjoy and remember about it. After some hours the door suddenly opens and someone enters the house with a pack of presents to cover up his face. Dragon/son? Both Rose and Garp said. Of course it's me. I wouldn't miss my daughter's birthday for anything, Dragon said to them smiling as he looked at Rose. I hope that you didn't cause any havoc on your way here, father. Dragon say to Garp with a frown as Garp pout. When I did such a thing, you insolent brat? Garp asked him as he prepared his fist of love. What is the meaning of this silence? Garp asked, growling as the two of them start to laugh. I'm sure, Garp, that you already know the answer. Also, I'm pretty sure that you don't want to wake up the children, Rose said to him with a mischievous smile as Garp start to pale, clearly remembering yesterday's events. After some more hours, Mai start to wake up to find her brother to smile at her and brush her hair. Happy birthday, Mai. This is for you, I hope you like it. Luffy say to her with a smile and a little blush as he gives her present. Mai unwrap her present to reveal a violet necklace in the shape of a tear who opens. As she open it, she find inside a photo of the two of them to laughing on the one side and at the other side a photo of the whole family. At the back is written Pudella mia stessa vida. Mai look at her brother with her jaw wide open as she launch herself on him, saying thank you again and again. I love it, Nizan. Mai say to him as Luffy nod his head and smile at her. Good, now let's ready and go downstairs. Luffy say to her as she nod her head while Luffy help her to put on her new necklace. After some minutes they are dressed and start to head downstairs to find their mother and Garp. As always, Luffy has my piggyback, but it doesn't bother him. Happy birthday, Mai. Rose, Garp and Dragon say to her as they run and hug her, making her to blush. When did you came, Papa? Mai ask her father happily. I came today morning, my little princess. Are you happy to see me? Dragon say to her as she rise her fists to the air. Of course, Papa, I'm happy to see you. Will you stay more this time? Mai say ask him as he raise her in the air. Sorry, my princess, but I came only for your birthday. Tomorrow I must return back. Dragon say to her as she pout. TSKKK typical. Luffy murmured annoyed, something that didn't go unnoticed by Rose and Garp as they frown. Come on, Luffy, will you not welcome me back? Dragon say to him with a silly smile. Yeah. Welcome back, Dad. Luffy say to him with an annoyed gaze. Oh come, Luffy, don't be like this. One day we'll be also a marine and then you will understand me. Dragon say to him, smiling as Luffy's and Garp's eyes widen while Rose start to laugh at that. Marines are lame and also they must follow rules. I don't like to follow anyone's rules. Luffy say to him, yelling the last part. Dragon don't try to make my precious grandchild's idiot Marines. Garp yelled to his son, furious. Marines aren't idiot, Father. Dragon say to him, pouting. Yes they are, Garp say to him. No they aren't. Dagon protest again. Yes. No. Grrr. Both of them start growling to each other face. I don't want to hear the word idiot coming from any of you two. To hear you two say that is the epitome of irony. Luffy state to the two of them, making the two grown-up men to pout, and Rose to laugh uncontrollably as the two men look at her. What? He have a point, you know. Rose say to them after a minute as they start to sweat drop. Can we go to an amusement park? Mai ask out of the blue. Yes, Mai, we can. Rose and Luffy say to her simultaneously. Yeah. Mai shout from joy, making everyone to smile. They leave the house and start heading to the amusement park. At the whole route, while Mai was interested to hear about the new adventures of her father, Luffy remained silent and skeptical, and Garp noticed that. After 40 minutes they reach the park and Dragon buy 5 tickets to enter the park. Nizan will bother you if I take the first ride with Papa? Mai asked Luffy shyly, making Luffy smile at her. No, Mai, it's your birthday so you can do whatever you want. After all, you have me all the time, so try to spend as time as you want with Dad now that is here. Luffy say to her as he pat her on the head, making her giggle and nod her head happily. Papa, come on, let's go to the Ferris wheel, Mai say to him as she drag her father, who laughed like idiot. Luffy, don't you want to go too? Rose asked him as she kneel in front of him, smiling. Nah, it's Mai's day. I want her to have fun. Luffy say to his mother, smile at Rose, brush his hair, smiling at him. I know, Luffy, but it's not bad to have fun also. Rose say to him, always smiling. I'm good, Ma, really. It's enough for me to have my wonderful day. Luffy say to her, smiling as Rose look at him worried and then look back at Garp, remembering the previous day discussion, and Garp nod at her, also worried. It was fun. Mai shouts as she run and hug her brother, making poor Luffy one more again embarrassment. Luffy just smile at her and pat her on the head. I'm happy that you like it. Luffy say to her, smiling as Mai nod her head, laughing. So, where do you want to go next? Luffy asked her, smiling. I want Neeson to choose. Mai say, giggling as Luffy nod his head and look around to see his options. Well, we can go to the roller coaster and then to the photograph booth to take some pictures, all of us together. Luffy say to her as Mai jump up and down excited, making all of them to laugh, Mai to slightly pout, and Luffy to sweat drop. They entered the roller coaster and Dragon with Garp start to pray to whatever deity they know to make it alive and whole from here, while Rose giggle amusement at the two grown-up men antics, and Luffy actually for one start to have fun. Mai from the other hand as ever start to laugh, not caring a bit as she truly having a very fun day. After some turns that seems like centuries, and while the two men turn pale more and more, they finally finish their round and both of them look like they are on a brink to have actually a heart attack. Oh come on, it was actually fun. Don't be such a wimps. Rose say to her, smiling as the two men look at her with widened eyes. I almost die up there / I almost die up there. Both of them shout at her simultaneously with sharp teeth, making everyone to sweat drop and after a minute to roll on the floor from the laughs. Are you serious? The only thing that you find to agree, both of you, is how scary is the roller coaster? Luffy asked them as he sweat drops, making the two men to look each other in realization and laugh. As I said, such a wimps? Rose said again, giggling, making the two men pout, and Luffy to shake his head annoyed. Can we go please to take some pictures? Luffy said as Rose nod her head, smiling, and start to drag the two grown-up men from the ears. All of them enter the photo booth and they start to take various poses. After they finish and take the pictures, Mai with Rose and Dragon continue to another activity, while Luffy decide to stay with Garp and rest on a bench eating cotton candy. None of them speak to another. Luffy just look at his family and how happy his little sister are, and Garp just observed his grandson. Will you continue to look at me more, or you'll finally ask me what you want to ask from when we leave the house? Luffy asked him as he continued to look Mai having fun. You're a cheeky brat, aren't you? Garp said, laughing. Of course I am. Luffy say to him with a smirk. What bothers you, Luffy? Garp asked him as Luffy turned and looked the old man in the eyes, and then he looked back at his family. I have a bad feeling, but I can't really place it. Luffy say to him as Garp wait for him to continue. I don't believe that coincidence. Luffy say to him as Garp widened his eyes. You don't possibly believe, Garp murmured as Luffy turned and looked at him with serious gaze. No. But also I don't believe that they allowed Dad to come here just for Mai's birthday, Luffy say to him as Garp start to turn pale. At the same time, on a faraway place. Pure. I'm listening, a man voice said. Did you took care of it? Another man asked. Yes. I don't want any surprises. Also, I don't want him to suspect anything. He's too valuable. I understand. Who you'll send? The 4. Good. The second man said and hangs up. With Luffy and Garp. What do you believe? Garp asks Luffy with serious tone and gaze. Whatever happened will happen soon, but not before Dad leave to return back. I don't know how, when or where. But it'll happen very soon, I'm almost sure of it. Luffy say to him with fire in his eyes as Garp nod his head. I see, what do you need from me? Garp say to him. Tomorrow that we'll go for practice, I'll convince Mom to take her real sword with her from now on. But I can't afford to leave Mai unprotected. So whatever happens, I'll stick with her from now on. That leaves you to cover her back. If I'm right, they will not take any chances and they will not attack head on. Luffy say to him, and he nod his head. But before he can speak, Mai with Rose and Dragon return back as they have finished their activities. I had pretty fun, Neeson, but I'm hungry. Mai say to him, smiling as she hugs her brother. I'm happy for you, Mai. If you're hungry, then let's go eat something, any? Luffy say to her, patting on her head as she giggles and nod her head. Okay, then let's go home, guys. You have your presents to open also, Mai. Rose say to her daughter as all of them nod their heads. And so they start to heading towards the house after a funny day full of laughs and good time. But the day has not complete yet. They reach the home and all of them help to prepare the table. The dinner was quite noisy, as from what it seems neither Garp nor Dragon have any table manners. But today is my birthday, and so no one will complain about that. After some hours they finish the food and Rose bring the birthday cake as Dragon light up the birthday candles. Happy birthday, Mai. Happy birthday, Mai. Happy birthday, dear Mai. Happy birthday, Mai. Happy birthday, my little princess slash happy birthday, my slash happy birthday, little sis, all of them said to the little girl as my blow off the candles and everyone hugs her. Thank you, ma slash Papa Gramps. But above all else, thank you, Luffy Neeson, that you love me. My said to all of them, making the poor Luffy to blush again and murmur as all of them start to laugh. It's time to open your presents, my. Luffy say to her to rescue whatever dignity can he save as my nod her head and launch herself towards the presents. She start to unwrap one to one. The first was a beautiful violet dress from her father and a pair of earrings. The second was a beautiful red katana, who is one of the 12 supreme grade swords, and a necklace with a red rose from her mother. Finally, the third gift was 2 books and a ring. One of the books has all the devil fruits, while the second has the art of the swordsmanship. The ring is the same as Luffy, but it's red, while Luffy's is light blue. After they cut the cake and eat it, Amaya start to feeling sleepy, so Dragon decide to put her on the bed to sleep and kiss his daughter, as when she woke up she'll not find him here. Good night, my princess. I'll see you soon, Dragon say to her as he kissed Maya on the forehead. It was a quite tiring day, and soon enough all of them decide to call it off and go for sleep. Luffy good night everyone, but before he go to his room he turned back to look at Garp, who nod his head. Tomorrow, Admiral Monkey D. Dragon must return back to the HQ and the things will return to normal as always or not. The morning came and Rose with Garp has awake early to farewell Dragon, who he'll return back to the HQ today. Before he leaves he go upstairs and kiss the 2 kids on the forehead, as he doesn't want to wake them up. After all, he'll see them all in a few months again, or not? Rose and Garp walked with him until the port as Dragon aboard his ship and start to sail back to the Marine HQ. While the 2 of them start to walk back to the house, Garp start to remember the yesterday's discussion with Luffy, and the more he thinks it, the more he becomes sure that something is off. Suddenly Rose stop and look at him, making Garp to stumble into her. Something is serious off, Gap, Rose say to him as Garp start to stand up and look at her. What do you mean, Rose? Garp asked her. I mean that there is no way to let Dragon come here just for Mai's birthday, even if he holds a position as an admiral. That only means that they didn't want him there to hear whatever conspiracy they did, and that he's too valuable for them as he is too naive. Rose say to him as Garp eyes widen, remembering the conversation with his grandson yesterday. Isn't that the same thing that you had discussed with Luffy yesterday? Rose continued to say before Garp could say anything. How did you know this? Garp murmured, surprised, as Rose just chuckled. You seem to forget that I was one of the best assassins in the history of this world, Rose said to him, giggling as Garp's sweat drop and both of them start to walk again. After a while they reach the house just in time that the kids start to wake up. After they dress, both Luffy and Mai go to kitchen for breakfast as they good morning both Rose and Garp. Mai start to ask if her father has leave already, and when Rose said her that he already has left she start to frown. While Luffy on the other hand seems to be on a high alert, but at the same time without really show anything for Mai's or to his mom's sake. Or as he wants to think. After the breakfast Luffy with Rose go to train as always, but this time both of them had their real swords together. Luffy was surprised from his mother's decision, as he wanted to tell her exactly that this morning, but he shrugged it anyway. The training session today was extremely hard and intense, as both of them wanted to see each other's level and breaking point. But not only that, as both of them continued to push even further beyond each other, as for some strange reason both of them had a feeling that their lives is about to change, and soon. After some hours they finished their training session, and both of them stopped to catch their breath, and start to walk back home, as Rose start to look at her son really proud, while Luffy start smile at her with somewhat bittersweet smile. A smile that Rose haven't seen it again on her son's face. As they continued to walk, suddenly Rose stopped to walk and unsheathed her sword, looking around as Luffy widened his eyes from realization and prepared to unsheath his sword too, but before he can do it Rose kneeled before him and put her hands on his shoulders. Luffy listened carefully. I want to run to the house and stay there with Mai, Rose say to him with a serious voice and gaze. Mom, I can help you. Maybe I'm not strong as you, but I won't let anyone to harm you, Luffy say to his mother with a dangerous fire burning on his eyes that they dare anyone to try anything. And at this time Rose realized that even if something happened to her, Mai will be fine, cause Luffy will destroy anyone who so much dare try anything. I know, my sweet son, but I need you to protect Mai. I'll be fine, if you can call Garp to help me then, Rose say to him, as she know that the best way to change her son's mind is to tell him to protect his little sister, and she succeed as Luffy nod his head and start to run home. After a few minutes, 4 men with cloaks appear as Rose start to laugh maniacally like a lunatic. Ha ha ha, they brought you to fight me? Are they so desperate to end my life that they begged the sacred council, or they bought you too? Rose asked the 4 men, laughing with amusement, but look at them with serious gaze in her eyes. I'm sorry, my child, that the situation came to this, but none of us have any other solution, a man said to her sorrowfully as he unsheathed his sword. I'm so sorry, Rose. If it were any other way around, believe me, we wouldn't do this. But our hands, it's tied, another man said to her regretfully as he also unsheathed his sword. Rose sighed and she finally unsheathed her blade too. I see. Well, at least I'm happy that they didn't bite you too. So, let's finish with this, but know this. Don't think for a minute that I'll go easy on you just because you have an other choice, Rose said to them with serious voice and gaze as all of them nod their heads in understanding. And all of them know this very well. She didn't take her name for a joke. How Bloody Rose was their best student, and the deadliest among them all, for crying out loud. So they didn't dare to think even for a tiny moment that this person in front of them will go easy on them. With a tap on the ground, she vanished as the 4 of them take defensive fighting stances. Edge of Blades murmured as she appeared from nowhere in front of one of them, slashing him multiple times, stunning him, and she vanished again in the air. Meanwhile, with Luffy. After some minutes running non-stop, he finally reached the house. He stops outside to take a breath and to gather himself, as he won't suspect anything. He enters the house, seeing as last time Mai to torture Garp, as the last time he saved him again, telling Mai that he'll make a snack for her. Where is Mama? Mai asked innocently, and at this moment Luffy really tried to make himself breath again as his breath caught in his throat. Mom has some business in town, so she told me to return back here until she finish. Luffy told her as he nodded to Garp, and he nodded his head. I'll go help her to finish her jobs quickly. Garp say to his granddaughter, patting her on the head as Mai giggles while Garp look at the inferno in Luffy's eyes and leave the house. Back with Rose and the others. Demon stance, Rose murmured as one of the remaining 3 men attack her while she hold her blade in a defensive stance. The moment the man touched her sword with his, he became immobile from the energy technique as Rose garbed him and kicked him multiple times, send him away from her, but she didn't finish. Phoenix prey, Rose murmured as she fly at her last target with the power of a soaring phoenix, dealing a deadly stab on the man as he looked at her with widened eyes a few seconds before he died. 2 down, 2 remain. You really are something, Rose, one of them said to her as she tried to catch her breath. I told you that I will not go easy on you, Rose answered him, chuckling. I have already killed the half of them relatively easy, as the 2 of them was at the pretty much new and pretty much at the same power levels with me. The question that remains is if I have now enough power to end the remaining 2 before they kill me. She started to thought. Hell, at this point I'm burning my lifespan as a burning wood, so either way I'm not going to survive this fight for much long from all that using of hockey and the other techniques. So I better hurry to end them so Luffy doesn't need to deal with them in the future. Rose continued to think as she sighed and take a fighting stance again. The 3 of them vanish in the air again as rapid slashes appear from everywhere, and at the same time Garp has finally appeared, looking around with widened eyes, and at the exactly moment that one of them delivers an engraved blow to Rose, making Garp to gasp and let his fury to build and flow inside him as he charged at the other man, killing him instantly. With 1 blow. Rose, are you okay? Oh my gosh, Rose, what I'll tell Mai. And Luffy will have my head that I allowed this bastard to harm you, Garp said solemnly to her as he rushed to her side while she chuckled. I'm not done yet, Garp. I'll not die until the last of them drop dead by my hand. I'll not allow any of them to land a hand to my babes, Rose said to him as she stand up, taking a fighting stance once again. Rose, you know that I'll never land a hand to any child, either me either any of us, the man said to her as he takes a fighting stance too. I know that your honor prevents you from something like this, Sensei, but didn't you and the others throw away your honor and came here to kill me? What tells me that tomorrow you and someone else come back for my kids? Rose said to him as he looked at her with widened eyes. No, Sensei, I can't take that chance and risk the safety of my children, Rose continued to say as she vanished again and began to attack the man. Thunderbolt, Rose shout, combining the heat of the sun and the power of the cold moon as she creates thunderjolts that increase her speed tremendous while she disable and slow down her opponent, teleporting her towards him and damaging him greatly from the landing as she deliver a final blow with her blade to the man's chest. It's over, Rose said as she crashed on the ground, clearly tired from the fight, from the extensive use of her hockey and her other techniques, as also for her injury. But something that no one of them noticed was a bat with a video den mushy that all this time recorded the whole thing, and the moment that the fight finished the bat start to fly back at his owner. Garp immediately rushed to her side trying to calculate the situation that he has on his hands as best as he can. After some minutes Rose finally catch her breath and look at Garp. But the moment she look at him Garp knows immediately that she haven't much more time in her, and he shook his head as tears of guilt and regret start to build into his eyes. Luffy was counting on him, and where was he? Luffy had told him multiple times and had warned him about that. He told him that if something happens to her that he'll not forgive him, and at this the old man's heart start to sink. How I let that bastards to do something like that to you, what I'll tell to the kids, and how I'll be able to look Luffy in the eyes again. I was a fool to believe that you'll be okay on your own. Garp say to her as tears start to flow at his cheeks freely. Garp, I don't have much more time in me. Bring Luffy here and prepare Mai and Luffy to leave from this island. Can you do that? Rose say to him as he nod his head and leave her while Rose tried to wipe out the blood and sit under a tree to help her support. With Luffy and Mai. Neeson, where is Mama and Gramp? Garp? Mai asked Luffy innocently and curious. They are in town, Mai. I told you that Mom had some business to finish and Gramps go there to help her. So don't worry, they'll come back soon. Luffy said to her smiling as he tried to persuade his little sister. Sure, Mom will be fine with the help of Gramps. I have nothing to worry because Mom is strong as also Gramps, but then why? Why I get the feeling that something terrible had happened. No, I can't think like this. I must stay strong no matter what for Mai's sake. Luffy start to thought as the door opens and Garp entered the house, breaking Luffy from his trance. The moment Luffy lay his eyes on the old man, he immediately understand that something bad happened. The more he look at him, and the fact that his sane Gramps avert his eyes from him makes Luffy's suggestions more accurate. Gramp, Garp, where is Mama? Mai asked the old man innocently as she launched herself on him, making Garp to gulp. Mom had some business, and she must leave for a while, so I guess that for now we'll stay with Gramps for a while, Mai. Luffy said to her as the old man clearly was struggling to answer to the little girl as Mai nod her head and climbs down from the old man while Luffy walked towards her. Mai, I want to stay with Gramps. I'll be right back. Okay? Luffy say to her as he hug his little sister and kiss her on the forehead, making her to giggle and nod her head. He walked towards the door and exit the house without to look back or to say anything else. After some minutes he arrive at the place who all start and end, and he finally finds his mother sitting under a tree smiling at him. He walks towards her with steady pace and without even flinching at the dead bodies around. Rose immediately hug him, always smiling at him, and look at him somewhat stoically and at the same time sweet and concerned about him. I'm sorry, my sweet boy, that you had to see all this death because of me, Rose say to him, frowning. It's okay, Mom, I'm fine. Luffy say to her nonchalantly. Are you dying? Luffy asked her bluntly, as it was the most normal and casual thing to ask someone. Yes, Luffy. I'm sorry that I'll be not there to see you and my grow up. I'm also sorry that because of me you have to protect your sister. This isn't a kid's job, Rose say to him with gently and sorrowful tone. I'll take care of her, Mom. I promise you that I won't let anything happen to her. Luffy state to his mother as the inferno inside his eyes trying to burn everything and anyone who so much dare to challenge him. I know that, my sweet boy, but now listen to me carefully, Luffy, because I haven't much more time. Rose say to her son as Luffy nod his head. I want to leave with your sister from this island and go with Garp. I already told him where to go, and also the Empress on this island has owned me a favor, so she'll take care both of you. Rose say to Luffy as he nod his head. Luffy, I want you to have my sword. Even if I die, I'll be always with both of you in every step in your life. Mo, my sweet son, take my hand. All my powers and techniques as also my knowledge will transfer to you. Rose say to her son as Luffy gasped but nod his head and take her mother's hand. As Rose said, the moment Luffy take her hand, all of her powers, techniques, and knowledge start transferring to him as slowly Rose's body starts slowly to disappear, always with her smile on her face. After some minutes Rose had disappeared wholly and a red aura start to emit from Luffy as both his power and his mother combined, leaving behind a big crater and an utterly destroyed landscape. Luffy took her mother's sword in his hands and raised the tip of the blade on the sky. I promise you, Mom, I'll protect with my life and above all else. Luffy said as he sheathed the sword and walk towards the house again. And I promise myself that no matter how many years will take, I'll find those who are responsible for your death, and I'll murder them. And that is a promise. Luffy murmured to himself as the inferno inside his eyes burned hotter than ever. We found Garp with Luffy and Mai on a small ship to travel through the calm belt, and towards the Amazon lily as Rose told them. Where are we going, Ji-chan? Mai asked him. We're going to an island who is called Amazon Lily, Mai. Garp told her as Mai nodded her head. Are you sure about this, Gramps? Do you trust them? Luffy asked him with a raised eyebrow. Yes, Luffy, Rose and the Empress of this island is somewhat friends. Garp slowly told him, picking his words carefully to not upset neither of them. Luffy simply nodded his head and returned his attention back to his sister, who started to pull his sleeve. How can I help you, Mai? Luffy asked his little sister, who giggles. I'm hungry, Nizan. Can you make me something to eat? Mai said to him, pouting as Luffy shook his head from Mai's appetite. Sure, Mai. Let's go inside to make you something to eat. Luffy said to her as he and Mai go inside the kitchen of the small ship. Mai sit down on a chair while Luffy opened the refrigerator to pull out the ingredients, and after some minutes a two-big sandwich with cheese, tomatoes and various cold meats and sauce was ready. Luffy put it on 2 plates and give one to Mai, who has stars in the eyes, and launch herself towards her brother and hug him, tell him thank you again and again, while Luffy start to sweat drop. Both of them exit the kitchen and go to shit with Garp as Luffy give the other plate to him, while Garp look at him with questioning eyes. Eat. Luffy say to him. I never told you that I was hungry, Garp said to him, but at the same time he was drooling at the view of the sandwich. I know how glutton are you, so don't make me hit you and eat, Luffy say to him with a vein pop on his forehead as Garp nod his head frantically and take the plate, while Luffy sigh. After a few hours they reach the island, and now they start to land. Garp was leading the way, and Mai as always never leaving the hand of her brother. The 3 of them continued to walk through the jungle, and after a few minutes and a few failed attempts of an unfortunate boar that now is history, they reached the city gates. Garp the Fist? What do you want on this island? One of the 2 guards asked Garp frantically as both of them raised their weapons towards him. I want to talk with the Empress. Tell her that Rose sent me, she'll understand, Garp told them. I also want to see Hancock, Sandersonia and Marigold if they are available. Garp continued. I'll go to inform the Empress, you'll stay here and watch him, the one warrior told to the other, who nodded her head. What 2 children doing with you? The warrior asked him as she points towards Luffy and Mai. They are my grandchildren and also the reason that we're here, Garp told her as the warrior looked at the 3 of them with widened eyes. After some minutes the gates open and a medium-height woman with pink hair and a pink flower on the left side on her head and a white cape is appear with some other warriors also. Garp, the woman said. Gloriosa, it's nice to see you again, Garp said with a smile. This man is friend with the Kujas, so if anything happened to him the responsible will have to answer to me. Am I clear? The Empress said as all of the warriors nod their heads. The woman now is start walking towards the 2 children and kneel to one knee to be eye level with them. Hello there, my name is Gloriosa. What are your names and what are you doing with this senile man? Gloriosa asked them as Garp pout. Mai titled her head and Luffy start to laugh, making Garp to pout even more. Oh great, there's another people except me who know how senile you are, Luffy said with a chuckle. What means senile, Nizan? Mai asked him with a questioning eyes. Senile, my dearest sweet little sister, is when an old people and out of his mind, or they have mental problems like our dear Gramps, Luffy explained to his sister as Mai start to giggle while Garp start to protest, making all of them to laugh. Sorry about this, my name is Luffy and this is my little sister Mai, Luffy said to Gloriosa as they shake their hands. Let's go to the palace and we can talk there more, Gloriosa tell them as all of them nod their heads. After 40 minutes they reach the palace and Garp with Gloriosa start to talk while Luffy and Mai start to look at the view. As they continue to talk, 3 little girls open the doors and walk inside the room. Garp-san, the 3 of them said as they walked towards him to welcome him. Bwahaha, how are you girls? Garp laughed loudly and asked them, making everybody in this room to sweat drop. We're fine, Garp-san, but what are you doing here? A slender young girl with dark long hairs and beautiful blue eyes told him. I'm here because I need to ask a favor from all of you, Garp said to them with a sad expression that make all of them to look at him with questioning eyes. Wait a minute, Garp, the warriors told me that Rose sent you and I can also see the resemblance between the kids and Rose. But the question that remains is, where is Rose? Gloriosa finally asked him as Garp seems to take an even more pained expression and sigh. Rose is dead. She asked me to bring the kids here as she said that you'll understand. Garp told them as all of them gasped from the revelation. What happened? Gloriosa asked. The government sent yesterday 4 people to kill her. We expected the attack as somehow my idiotic son has come to visit us for Mai's birthday, and Rose with Luffy was able to see through their plan. Rose fought them, and until I found her it was too late. Luffy knows about it but my Mai is too young to understand and Luffy wants to stay as it is. Garp said as all of them look at him with widened eyes and full of fury about how the world government acts. Garp, I'll take care of the kids as if they was my own. I own so much to Rose, so this is the least I can do. But I can't tell if Luffy will be happy here. Gloriosa say to him as Garp sigh. Luffy will not be any trouble for you. If that is what you ask. Garp said to her. But I must say to you some things about him. He continued to say as all of them start to look intrigued. He'll not move against you if all of you treat Mai fairly, and don't wrong her in any way. Luffy doesn't care at all about himself, but if something happens to his little sister then just say that he'll bring hell on the earth. He also possess armament and observation. I don't know yet if he has conqueror's haki too. Also he is one of the best swordsmen despite his age. He also bottle his feelings and he'll not show to any of you how truly feels. If any of you became friends with him, or with his sister, he'll sacrifice his life to save you if the need arise, but if someone move against him, his sister or anyone who he consider his friend, he'll without question destroy him her. Garp explained to them as they look at him with widened eyes and impressed from Luffy's character. This is very interesting, Hancock said as Garp looked at her. Come on, let's introduce you to them, and you can find out on your own. Garp said as all of them exited the room and start to walk towards Mai and Luffy. They reached the balcony only to find that Luffy and Mai had already made some friends and Mai to play with some warriors while others admire Luffy's sword, and as Luffy look at Mai smiling that his little sister is happy. Ji-chan, Mai said as she launched herself towards Garp while Luffy sigh and shake his head as he walks towards him also. This is Mai and this is Luffy, kids this is Hancock, Sandersonia and Marigold. Garp introduced his grandkids to the others and vice versa. Wow! You are all very beautiful, Mai said to the 3 girls as they startle and start to blush while Luffy's sweat drop. I'm sorry for this but Mai is really very simple mind. I'm Luffy. It's nice to meet you, Luffy said to them as he extend his hand for handshake. Yes, I can see that. It's nice to meet you both, Hancock said as she takes Luffy's hand and they handshake. My name is Sandersonia, but you can call me Sonia, a slim tall young girl with green hair and green eyes said as she handshake with Luffy. My name is Marigold, but you can call me Mary, a slim young girl with the brown orange hairs and eyes said as she also handshake with Luffy. Luffy, Mai, from now on you'll stay here on Amazon Lily with the Empress, Hancock, Sandersonia, Marigold and the other Kuja's warriors, Garp said to them as Mai throw her fist in the air from joy while Luffy look at them as somewhat trying to read them. I'll stay only if my 2 conditions are fulfilled, Luffy said to them with serious voice and gaze. Sure, let's hear it, Luffy, Gloriosa said with a smile, truly intrigued. First, I want a job of any kind. I don't care what it is as much as it can bring me money. I'll not tolerate any kind of pity or alms. I can work and feed myself and my sister, Luffy told them with a tone of finality that make all of them to gasp and look at him with widened eyes. Second, I want when I reach the age of 18 to be able to leave from here without any kind of obligations to join your pirate crew, Luffy said them making look at him with widened eyes for another reason this time. Gloriosa walks towards him and kneel to be eye level with him smiling. You have a deal. But can I ask you why? The Empress asked him as Luffy smirked. It's simple really. Mai's care is my job and obligation as she's my sister. As for the second reason, Luffy said and come near to her ear. I'll track, hunt down and butcher the responsible for my mother's death, Luffy said to her as the Empress looked at him with widened eyes while Luffy has a sinister smile on his face that make everyone there to freeze. I also have one request. Is someone in this island who is expert with a sword? Luffy asked them. Yes, many warriors are expert with various kind of weapons. And our champion is the best swordsman in this island, Hancock said to him as Luffy nodded his head and smiled. Good, then I want to spar with her, and see if Mai can learn from your warrior. If not, then I'll teach her myself, Luffy told her. I'm sorry, Luffy, but I believe that she might be a bit too much for you, Sonia say to him as Luffy smirk. Well, that's the reason for this spar. I told you that I want to spar with her, not to actually fight her, Luffy said to her with a mischievous smile as he started to walk towards them. Ah yes, I forgot to inform you that I also have mastered the swordsmanship, Luffy said to them, making all of them to gasp from this revelation. The Empress told to some warriors to inform the whole Kujas to gather at the battle ring as she have an announcement to do. She with Garp, Mai, Luffy, Hancock, Sonia and Mary left to go to the battle ring. After some minutes the warriors start to gather as the Empress with Luffy, Mai and Garp was at the center of it. Warriors, from this day on these two kids Luffy and Mai will stay with us. I want your best behavior towards them. If anyone wrong any of them in any way she'll have to answer to me and the punishment will be severe, the Empress said as all the warriors nod their heads. They leave the arena and go back to the docks as Garp was ready to leave. When I'll see you again, Ji-chan? Mai asked him as she climbed on him. I have some work to do, Mai, but I'll come visit for time to time if it's okay, Garp said as he looked at the Empress who smiled and nod her head. Luffy start to walk towards him as Mai start to climb down from the poor man. Garp kneeled down to one knee to be eye level with Luffy. I want you to learn who gave the order and also who have the title of the best swordsman in the world. I'll take care of Mai, Luffy told him with a tone of finality as Garp nodded his head. Take care of yourself, Gramps, Luffy continued as Garp aboard on his small ship and start to sail away. The next day. The morning came and Luffy with Mai start to wake up. They start to dress and after a while they exited their room and start to heading towards the kitchen to have a breakfast. Good morning, Luffy/Mai. How did you sleep? Gloriosa and Hancock with Sonia and Mary asked them. Good morning. I have slept very well, thank you, Luffy said. Good morning, Wani-san, Mai said excitedly as all of them start to sweat drop. Luffy shake his head and smile at his little sister while he brushed her hairs. Sorry for that, but I assume that you'll get used to that after a while, Luffy told them smiling. What we'll do today, Nizan? Mai asked her brother as Luffy took a slice of bread while he put some marmalade on it and gave it to her. Well, Mai, I'll train as always and then we'll see, Luffy said to her as she smiled to him and nodded her head. Suddenly, and as Mai eating, she stopped and looked at her brother with questioning eyes while Luffy start to sweat drop waiting for the bomb to drop. But Nizan, how do you train if Mai isn't here? Mai asked him as Gloriosa, Hancock, Sonia and Mary look at Luffy with widened eyes and a sad gaze. For a moment an inferno appear in Luffy's eyes that make the three girls and the Empress to fear Luffy's reaction, but soon Luffy sigh and put a small smile on his lips as he turned to Mai and looked at her with gentle eyes. Well, Mai, if it isn't too much problem, I'll spar with the swordswoman of this island if it is okay with you, ma'am, Luffy said as turned his gaze to Gloriosa. Of course, Luffy. And please call me Gloriosa, the Empress told him with a gentle smile as Luffy nodded his head. As they continued the breakfast, the four of them left dumbfounded and intrigued about how a small child and especially a little girl can eat so much as four adult people and so fast as yesterday night. They thought that she was just hungry, but what it seems that's not at all the case. Luffy, on the other hand, is a whole different case. He have excellent table manners. After a while they finish their breakfast and Gloriosa with the others lead Luffy in the training area who the warriors are. Luffy, this is Aphalandra, our best swordswoman, Gloriosa said as she points to an extremely tall girl who have wide dark brown eyes and long orange-brown hair falling past her shoulders. It's very nice to meet you, miss, Luffy said as he bows slightly his head while Aphalandra and some other girls giggles and nod her head. Aphalandra, Luffy requested a spar with you. Do you accept? Hancock asked her as the warriors look at Luffy with widened eyes. I'm sure, but can I ask you why, Luffy-kun? Aphalandra said/asked Luffy. Of course, I requested a spar with you to see if you can train Mai or if I must train her myself. Also, I wanted to see your skills, Luffy said as Aphalandra nodded her head. I'll be very happy to help Mai and also you if you want, Aphalandra said as Luffy smiled and nodded his head. Okay then, follow me, Gloriosa said as all of them leave and start heading to the battle ring as all of them were curious about Luffy's skills. They reach and enter the battle ring and both Aphalandra with Luffy took fighting stances while Mai sit with Hancock and the other girls. Aphalandra unsheathed her sword while Luffy looked at her and smirked. She launched herself towards him, trying to slash him vertically, but Luffy unsheathed his sword and blocked her slash with ease, make everyone except Mai and Gloriosa to look at him with widened eyes. Luffy looked at Aphilandra and smiled at her. Miss Aphilandra, Luffy said with a serious voice that made everyone flinch. Yes, Luffy-kun? Aphilandra said. You go very easy on me, although this is only a spar. I need for you to take this very serious, and come at me with all you have, Luffy said, making everyone gasp and Mai to laugh. Without any second to spare, Luffy vanished and attacked Aphilandra with a slash on his own, making her to block it just in time and sending various waves to all directions, making all of them petrified at this boy's strength. Both of them took a step back and launched themselves to each other again, exchanged various slashes rapidly. Luffy smirks and takes some steps back. This is it, Hancock murmured. Death chase, Luffy murmured as he teleported back of Aphilandra while slashing and immobile her as she drops her sword and kneeled to one knee. Luffy walks towards her, sheath his sword and extend his hand to her, smiling. Aphilandra look at him and take his hand to stand up and hug him, making Luffy to blush and sweat drop. Thank you, Luffy-kun, she say to him as he look at her with questioning eyes as they break from the hug. Why do you thank me, miss? Luffy asked her. Because if this was an actual fight, then you could easily kill me, and also you saw to me that I still have a lot to learn, Aphilandra said as Luffy nodded his head while the warriors, Gloriosa, Hancock, Sonia, Mary and Mai came to them. Luffy Neeson is very strong, Mai said as she launched herself towards Luffy, tackled both of them, making all of them to laugh and Luffy to blush and protest. I believe it's best to treat you wounds for any infection and also to rest for a while, Miss Aphilandra, Luffy say to her as he stands up while Mai is always clinching to him. Luffy-kun, Aphilandra said as Luffy nodded her to continue. Can you train me? Aphilandra said with a blush on her cheeks. Luffy remained silent for a minute thinking it, but soon looked at her and smiled. Sure. But I must inform you, I'm not an easy teacher and I'll not go easy with you just because you're a girl. If you're okay with this, then I have no problem to train you, Luffy say to her as she nodded her head and smiled happily, while Hancock from behind start to smile and blush with Luffy's attitude. This man seems different. Even if he is only a little boy, he is entirely different from other men and he have entirely different attitude. He is very strong, but he's not boast about it as the most of them do. He also had every change to hurt seriously Aphilandra, but he only wound her lightly. And he deeply cares about his sister. This is not some act, he really and truthfully cares about her, and also for Aphilandra. He had absolutely no reason at all to train and make her more powerful, but he doesn't care at all if someone has become stronger than him. Hancock started to thought as she continued to smile and look towards the little boy. Well, let's head back now that you finish your spar, Gloriosa said as all of them start to walk outside from the battle ring. As they exited, Mai start to climb up and play with Hancock's pet Salome, making Luffy to pale and sweat drop for his sister and her antics, something that didn't go unnoticed from the others. Luffy, Hancock said as he turned and looked at her. Yes, Miss Hancock, Luffy said. Please call me just Hancock. Do you want to see the town? Hancock said / asked him with a blush. Sure, why not? Luffy said as Salome with Mai on it came towards them. The four of them start to walk through the town as the Kujas greet them. They continue to walk until Luffy saw the town's bar restaurant and stop as the shop is asking for him, please. Luffy with the others enter the shop and sit at the bar. The owner has come to our island a few years ago, but still, this is one of the best places on the island, Hancock say to him as Luffy nod his head and smile. Good morning. How can I offer you today? A young woman with brown eyes and green dark hair that goes up above her shoulders asked. Good morning, ma'am. I wanted to ask about the job notice that you have outside on your shop and if you still want personnel, or if the positions have already covered, Luffy say to her as the woman giggles from the good manners of the boy. Aren't you a sweetheart? My name is Makino and know the position is still free, but aren't you a little too young to work here? Makino said / asked him as Luffy start to blush, Mai to laugh and Hancock to slowly glare to Makino. Thank you very much, you're very kind. Nah, it's okay. If you want, you can take me for a week as a trial period to see how I'll do it, and if you're satisfied from my work, Luffy say to her as Makino smile and nod her head. Luffy, are you sure? Hancock asked him somewhat concerned. Yes, I'm positively sure about this, Miss Hancock, Luffy say to her with a smile that make Hancock to blush once again. Then you have a deal, Luffy-kun. Makino say to him as they handshake. Thank you. When I can start? Luffy asked her. You can come from tomorrow morning, Makino said to him as Luffy nodded his head. Well, I'll see you tomorrow morning, Makino-san. Luffy say to her as she smiled at him, and they exited the bar. They continued to walk through the town meeting more Kuja warriors, and the most of them were very intrigued about the little boy, making now Hancock to glare almost everyone. Miss Hancock, Luffy said. Yes, Luffy, Hancock said as she turned to look at him. If I'm not too curious, what is your specialty? I mean, I don't see to carry any sword or something other weapon with you as Miss Mary, Luffy asked her as Hancock smiled. I'm more a freestyle fighter, and also I have a devil fruit powers. As for a weapon, I have Salome, Hancock said as Luffy looked at her and nodded his head. Miss Hancock, can you teach me how to fight if it is not too much to ask? Luffy asked her as Hancock gasped and blushed from his request, and also that she can have more time with him, and alone. Of course, Luffy. I'm more than happy to teach you, but aren't you already a swordsman? Hancock said / asked him as Luffy smiled. Thank you very much, Miss Hancock, Luffy said as Hancock pout. This whole thing with the miss start really to bother her. Luffy, please call me just Hancock, Hancock say to him with a gentle tone as Luffy sigh and shake his head. Fine, Hancock. Well, to answer to your question, I want to learn different fight techniques because I won't base on only to a sword or only to one style. When you face an enemy, you must be able to adapt to his fighting style every time, and if you can't, then you probably end dead in no time. Luffy explained to her, as she nodded happily because he finally called her by only her name, and also from his attitude. Mizan is very clever, Mai said with stars in her eyes, and she launched herself towards Luffy as he pat her on the head, making Hancock to laugh, and Luffy smiled at her. It suit you, Luffy said as Mai, Hancock and Salome turned and looked at him with questioning eyes. To laugh, it suit you to laugh. You must do it more, Luffy said to Hancock as he looked at her with a gentle smile, making her to blush once again. The four of them start to heading back to the palace as the time has passed quickly, and it was almost time for lunch. After some minutes, they reach the castle and start heading to the dining room. Welcome back. How was the walk at the town? Gloriosa asked them. It was very nice, thank you, Luffy said with a smile. We go to Makino's and Luffy asked her for a job. He'll start from tomorrow, Hancock said as Gloriosa, Mary and Sonia look at him. I told you that I already searched for any job, Luffy said them simply. I also asked from Hancock to train me and teach me her fighting style if that is okay with all of you, Luffy continued to say as all of them nod their heads and smile, as from what it seems the two of them start to become already close friends. Luffy, when you're away, your father has called, Gloriosa said to him as Luffy's eyes narrowed and a small amount of Conqueror's haki burst from him, as also a red aura started to emitting from him, making everyone inside that room to look at him with widened and worried eyes. Luffy excused himself and left the table, making all of them even more worried. While Mai was ready to follow him, Hancock said that she'll go and talk to him. Luffy was at his room starting to curse his father and the hypocrites that he works for now that Mai isn't with him. A knock on the door succeeded to put him out from his rage mode as he started to walk towards the door and open it to see Hancock outside, clearly worried about him. Are you alright, Luffy? Hancock asked him with a concern as the aura from Luffy starts slowly to disappear. I'm sorry that I worry all of you, Hancock, and also for my outburst, Luffy said with a gentle voice and a fake smile. It's okay, Luffy, I understand. If you want someone to talk about it, I'll always there and more than happy to listen you, Hancock said as she hugs him stoically. Something that didn't expect in her whole life is for someone to return her hug, and that someone is nevertheless Luffy, a small boy that she only met yesterday, and he's already earned her heart. Oh, poor Hancock, you have absolutely no idea what is waiting you in the future. The next morning. The morning came and Luffy wake up early as today is his first day at work, so he take a bath and after some minutes he dress up and exit his and Mai's room. He good morning everyone and he start to heading to Makino's bar. After a few minutes he reached the bar and enter. Good morning, Makino-san, Luffy said with gentle voice and a small smile on his lips. Good morning, Luffy-kun. I didn't expect you this early though, Makino say to him with a soft smile. It's okay, Luffy say to her as he chuckled while Makino giggled and nod her head. Let's show you the place, Makino said with a gentle smile and start guide Luffy through her shop. After some minutes they finish the tour and both of them sit at the bar. Luffy-kun, do you want anything to drink? Did you eat breakfast? Makino asked him with gentle voice. I don't want to bother you, Makino-san, Luffy said as Makino giggles. Nonsense, you don't bother me at all, Makino said to him as Luffy sighed. Some juice or some tea will be nice then, please, Luffy said as Makino smiled and go behind the bar to prepare the order. She put on the bar bench a glass of strawberry juice and a plate with toast and jam, insisting for Luffy to eat. Thank you, Makino-san, Luffy said to her as she nodded her head. So, Luffy-kun, how do you find it to be the only male in our island, and also how do you see the island itself? Makino asked him with a smile, trying to start a conversation and also to begin to know the little boy a little better. Well, Makino-san, to tell the truth, I only have seen some part of the city. I had saw the jungle the day we come here, but I haven't explored the island yet. As for you other question, it's nice, although it can be pretty creepy from time to time, Luffy say to her, sweat dropping while Makino start to laugh at the boy's reaction. Don't get me wrong, I was raised by my mom and in a house with 2 women, so it doesn't bother me at all. But all those gaze that the warriors give me when I walk through the city and also when I'm with Hancock and she glare at them makes it strange, to put it mildly. Luffy continued to say as Makino now laughs even harder, making the little boy to frown. I'm sorry, Fufufu, I'm sorry, Luffy-kun. You have absolutely right, Makino said as she's red as tomato from the laugh and gasping for air. Luffy-kun. Various voices sound, making the little boy to sweat drop and murmured, why me? Speak for the devil and he, or in your situation they shall come, Makino murmured as she started to laugh once again, making the poor boy to sigh and shook his head. Luffy stand up and goes to take the order from the girls. Good morning, Aphalandra, Mississippi. Are you ready to order or you want to give you some time? Luffy asked, trying to be polite and not roll his eyes and sweat drop from the girls' antics. Good morning, Luffy-kun. It's nice to see you again. I'd like a cup of coffee, please, Aphalandra said to him as Luffy smiled at her and start to write the order at his notepad. Good morning, Luffy-kun. It's nice to meet you. I'd like a cup of tea, please, a young slim girl with short, unruly blonde hair said. Would you like any specific favor or type, miss? Luffy asked her with a smile. A rose black tea if it is possible, please, the blonde-haired girl said with a gentle smile as Luffy write to his notepad and go to Makino to give her the orders. After some minutes, Luffy take the order and walk to the table who the girls are. 1 coffee and 1 rose black tea, he said as he served the drinks. Thank you, Luffy-kun, both girls said. You're welcome, my ladies, Luffy say with a smile, as he start to walk suddenly stops as he just remembering something. Oh yes, Aphalandra, I'm finishing my shift at noon. If you want and have free time we can train then, Luffy say to her as Aphalandra nod happily while Makino and the blonde-haired girl look at Luffy with questioning eyes. Luffy agreed to train me after we spar yesterday, and I lost badly, Aphalandra explained to the other 2 as the blondie was on guard duty yesterday. Come on, Aphalandra, you mustn't underestimate yourself. You did it good. I was just trained by the best swordswoman in the world, Luffy say to her with a smile, trying to lift her spirit, and he succeeded as he make her smile again, but suddenly a loud crash is heard from Makino's side. Makino, are you alright? Luffy run towards her and ask her, as she has dropped some glasses on the floor, and she start to tremble slightly. Luffy, who was your teacher? Makino asked him cautiously. My mom, her name was Rose, Luffy said with somewhat bittersweet tone as Makino gasped while Luffy and the 2 other girls look at her. Luffy. The only woman I know with that name is Neri. Rose, or as the most people know her, Bloody Rose, Makino said as she and the other 2 girls look at Luffy gasping. Yep, that was my mom, but I never knew her last name, Luffy say to her as all of them look at him now with widened eyes. Whoa, you're Rose's son, who had thought that the world is so small, and many years after I would meet the kids of my best friend, Makino said as walks towards Luffy and hug him while the other 2 girls left some money on the table and left Makino and Luffy to talk in privacy. So, you're the best friend of Mom's, Luffy murmured while Makino catch the change of mood. What happened? I know for sure that Rose will never abandon her kids no matter what, Makino asked him with a gentle tone as both of them sit at the bar and Makino closed the door of her shop. Mom died 2 days ago, We just had finished training and we start to heading home. Long story short, she didn't make it. If I can guess, then I say that the Marines or the world government find her true identity. Luffy say to her as Makino look at him now sad with tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Luffy. Rose was my best friend, so from now on whatever you or your sister need, don't hesitate to come to me. Even if you just want to talk, I'll be there for both of you. Makino said with determination as she hugs Luffy again. Did Mai know about this? Do you want me to talk to her? Makino asked him cautiously, knowing very well how difficult it is for someone at Luffy's age to explain a situation like that to a younger child. No, Mai don't know anything and I don't want to learn anything yet. Luffy said to her with serious voice as Makino nodded her head. Can you tell me about Mom? Luffy asked her as Makino smiled gently to him. Of course. Actually, Rose and I were raised in the same island on East Blue along with a kid named Monkey. The Dragon. The two of us were always inseparable, but soon Dragon had developed a crush for her and start to follow us everywhere. Makino say to him as she start to giggle, remembering the old memories, while Luffy's temper start to rise. He was a simple-minded kid, but he had a good heart. As we would grow, the two of them began dating. His foolish behavior was a good counterbalance for her seriousness. Years later he left to become a Marine, while Rose and I began to travel around the world until we reached an island at South Blue called Batarilla, and we decided to stay there. Makino continued to say to him as Luffy listening her interesting. She continued to recount about how Rose start to train from a group of specialists at the swordsmanship, while the two of them become good friends with another woman on the island. After some years, Rose start to leave from time to time and come back while Makino open a bar on the island. I always knew what Rose is doing, even if I didn't ask her once. Sure, she was capable to assassinate someone without even the victim see her, or to annihilate an entire battleship without even a scratch. But when she comes to wash her clothes, she was entirely clueless, Makino said as she giggles while Luffy looked at her with widened eyes. Ah, Makino. Are you sure that we're talking about the same person? Luffy asked her with a raised eyebrow, making Makino now to laugh. Yep, Makino said as Luffy sighed. Okay, I was just checking, Luffy said as he sweat drop. The life that Rose had before being a family and have you and Mai was entirely different than after she gave birth to you. Makino said to him with a soft and gentle smile. Before she can continue, someone knocked at the door, and as they looked to see who is, they see Mai with Hancock outside. Mai smiling as always, while Hancock seems to glare daggers towards poor Makino, while Luffy start to sweat drop once more again. Well, someone seems to develop a crush here. What it reminds me, Makino said giggling. Makino, don't even start. Luffy said to her, shaking his head while Makino walked towards the door to open it. Nizan, Mai said as she launched herself towards Luffy, embarrassing him once again. Yeah, Mai, I'm happy to see you too, Luffy said to his little sister as he pat her on the head, making the little girl to giggle. Luffy, my dearest, aren't you happy to see me? Hancock asked him, blushing, make Luffy to widen his eyes for what she called him. Why me? He murmured, shaking his head. Yes, I'm happy to see you, Hancock, Luffy said, making Hancock to blush even more and Makino to roll on the floor laughing. Now, what I can offer you? Luffy asked as Mai and Hancock sit at the bar. A cup of tea would be great, my dearest, Makino. I hope to not tire Luffy very much, Hancock said gently to him, while at the same time roar at poor Makino, making Luffy to sweat drop and almost roll his eyes, while Mai start to giggle, clueless as always. Well, I can clearly see from where Mai takes her behavior, Makino said giggling. Yes, Mai looks and behave more like our father, while I look and have our mom's attitude, Luffy explained to her, almost spiting at the word father, who didn't go unnoticed by both Makino and Hancock. Makino Onizen, do you know our mom? Mai asked as Luffy gives her a glass of juice and serving the tea to Hancock. Yes, I knew both your parents, Makino said, smiling. The four of them continued to sit there and talk for various things, while from time a few Kuja warriors entered the bar ordering various things that Luffy serving them. The noon came and Makino closed the bar as Luffy's shift was over. Luffy said to Hancock to accompany Mai home because he have to train Aphilandra. Hancock agreed, but he told him that she'll return after put Mai to sleep. After walking for a while, Luffy finally find Aphilandra, but what he see make him to sweat drop, as beside Aphilandra are four more Kujas. Good noon, ladies. Aphilandra, are you ready for your first training session? Luffy asked her with a gentle and polite tone. Good noon, Luffy-kun. Yes, I'm ready, but are you sure that you don't need to rest? I mean, we can do that later in the evening, Aphalandra said to him as Luffy smiled. Nah, it's okay, I'm not tired at all. Luffy said to her, as she nodded her head. Luffy-kun, the blondie from the morning said. Yes, Miss Luffy began to say, but he realized that he doesn't know her name. Marguerite, my name is Marguerite. And from there I ran, Sweet Pea and Kikyo. Marguerite said as Luffy bowed slightly his head and said that is nice to meet them. Can we come along to see? We promise to not bother you at all. Marguerite continued as Luffy started to think about it for a while. Okay, you can come with us as long none of you interfere, Luffy said as all of them nod their heads. Now, where do you want to go to begin our training, Luffy-sensei? Aphalandra said as Luffy raised an eyebrow. We'll go outside of the city because I don't want to destroy anything here accidentally. Also, you can call me just by my name, I'm not too old yet, I think. Luffy said as all of them look at him with widened eyes at the word destruction, but then they giggle. Luffy took 2 blunt swords and then the 5 of them start to walk towards the city gates and they exited it. Then they continued to walk through the jungle until Luffy makes sure that all of them are at a safe distance from the city. Well, I already know that you can use Haki both armament and observation as also flying/attacks. So for today's lesson we'll focus to make your attacks more powerful. Luffy said to her, as she nodded her head. I presume that all of you have already unlocked your observation Haki. Am I right? Luffy asked as he turned to ask the rest of them, and they nod their heads. Good. He said and unsheathed his sword. I want all of you to see this, so watch carefully. He said as he jumped in the air and slashed vertically with his sword the peak of the trees while his attack continued to travel and cut at least 20 meters away. He sheathed his sword back, earning gasps from everyone there as he landed on the ground smoothly. You must be able to do at least that if you want to have a chance on this sea or if you want to call yourself a decent swordsman. As your teacher I'll not expect or be satisfied with nothing less than that. Luffy said to her with serious voice and gaze as Aphalandra nodded her head while the other 3 girls looked at him with awe. Aphalandra began and try again and again as Luffy continued to give her instructions all the way up. This continued for some hour and Aphalandra already started to become better at this. But suddenly he raised his hand and take a mien that none of them has seen before as a red aura started to emit from him. Stay here and be quiet, Luffy said with serious voice and gaze as he disappeared. After a minute or so the 4 girls hear a scream before Luffy reappear with an unconscious man at his hand. Ho how? Is he? Ran asked with awe, who is an average-sized girl who have jet black hair parted on one side with an earring on each ear. No, he hasn't seen me, and yes, he's very much alive at least for now. Luffy said to her as he threw the man on the ground, making all the girls to flinch from his changed demeanor. You can come out now, Hancock, Luffy said out of the blue as all of them look at him with questioning eyes, but soon enough Hancock appeared from behind a tree with Salome. I found that piece of crap on the shore, so I suggest to take him and find out why he was here and what he's looking for. If you want any help then call me, he said as his red aura started to disappear and Luffy himself started to calm down while Salome take the man to the guards. By the way, Aphalandra, you did well for the first lesson, Luffy said to her with a smile as Aphalandra smiled and blushed. We'll continue tomorrow same time as today, Luffy said before Aphalandra can even ask him as she nodded her head. 6 months later. Luffy continued to work at Makino's bar every morning, and when he finished his shift he will go to train Aphalandra and the other girls as all of them become impressed with Luffy's skills. Then after some hours of rest he will go to train with Hancock, and slowly the 2 of them became almost inseparable with the exception of Mai, of course. The man who Luffy had catch 6 months ago luckily was an unfortunate man that for his bad luck was lost. After Luffy's and Hancock intervention they allow him to leave the island alive, but from some strange and unknown reason the man had lost his memory entirely. Well, I mean, accidents happen all the time, right? It was an evening of some of those days that the 2 of them decide to skip the training and go to explore the island, but clearly something is bothering Luffy. After the 2 of them was together almost all the time, Hancock was able now to see and notice even the slightest signs of change in Luffy's demeanor and gaze. So she stops and looks at him. Luffy, has something happened? Hancock asked him with gentle tone but worried gaze. No, it's all fine, Hancock, Luffy said to her, putting a fake smile on his face, making her to frown and worry even more. Come on, Luffy, I know you very well now. So please tell me what is bothering you, Hancock said, almost begged him as Luffy sighed. Look, Hancock, if you're asking if someone told me something then the answer is no, but that doesn't mean that I don't see how most of the habitants look at Mai, and then at me. Luffy said, but as Hancock is ready to speak, Luffy raised a hand to stop her. Both of us know that I don't belong here, Hancock, and maybe I'll never do, but as long as Mai is safe and happy, I don't care. I was never actually welcome at my home island either, as everyone feared me or didn't like me because I was beating whoever bothered or making Mai sad. So this feeling isn't exactly something new to me. Luffy continued to say as Hancock looked at him with sad expression. Then all of them are fools, Hancock said as she put a hand to Luffy's shoulder. Look, Luffy, I can see how much your sister mean to you, but believe me when I say that you're worth more than you can think. And for that you have and you will always have my utmost respect. Hancock continued to say with serious voice and gaze as Luffy looked at her somewhat dumbfounded. You had no obligation at all to train Amphalandra and the other girls and teach them how to become stronger and better, but you did it anyway, and not only that, but you never asked for anything in return. Hancock continued to say with gentle tone and smiling. So if they don't want to be friends with you or they don't like you, it's their loss, Hancock said, making Luffy finally to smile and nod his head. Thanks, Hancock, Luffy said as he hugs her and put a kiss on her cheeks, leaving the poor Hancock to gasp and blush scarlet. They continue to walk, and soon enough they stand outside of some ancient ruins that it seems to be somewhat like a temple from a long time ago. As Luffy start to approach the ruins, a giant snake come out who is even bigger than Salome, and hiss at him, while Luffy does nothing and look the snake in the eyes. Luffy, don't. This is one of the two lords of this islands. Even the strongest warriors don't come close to them, Hancock say to him, worrying for Luffy's life. The snake and Luffy continue to look each other in the eyes for some minute without even one of them to flinch once. It is a large white snake with a dark violet spots running down its body while the underside of it is cream. Luffy, watch out! A voice shout as Luffy unsheathed his sword and produced an flying slash, making Hancock to shout, the snake to freeze dead, and all that within seconds. The strange thing though was that the attack didn't targeting the snake but what it was behind it. As a huge crush is sounded and a cloud of dust appear, Luffy sheath his sword back and start to walk towards the crash. The three of them reached the point who the crush had sounded only to find an enormous tiger dead clearly from Luffy's slash. This is unbelievable, Hancock said, gasping, not believing in her eyes. Why, Hancock? Was this some strong animal or something? Luffy asked her, not at all impressed. Luffy, this was the Tiger Lord, one of the two kings of the jungle, and you beat it with a single slash, Hancock explained to him as she still can't believe what she sees. Luffy chuckled and continued to look at the giant snake. Something about it intrigued him. The snake lowered his head down for Luffy to climb up, making Hancock to lost it completely now and Luffy to laugh. From this day on, the snake start to follow Luffy almost everywhere as Salome does with Hancock. It was a shocking event for everyone except for Mai, as always. After all, it isn't every day that one of the kings of the jungle, and now the only lord of the island, to bow her head towards a small boy. And yes, what a surplus the snake actual is, she. Luffy named her Nia, and she followed him everywhere except from the bar. When Nia wasn't with Luffy, was always with Mai, look after her, and protecting her even while she sleeps. No one was brave or stupid enough to come near her, as a glare from Nia was enough to make you run endlessly without to look back once. The only people who let come near her was of course Luffy, his little sister Mai, and for some strange reason Hancock. Also Salome, who for some unexplained reason is smiling all the time, but from the other hand might do it too. 3 years had passed and Luffy became during his stay somewhat like the Prince of Amazon Lily, as everybody on the island respect him and love him. Of course he continued to work at Makino's bar and also to train Amphalandra and the rest of the girls. At the same time he continued his training with Hancock, and during the time Sonia and Mary start to train Mai. He also learned more about his mother's and his father's character, as Makino was more than happy to tell him everything she knew about them. But despite the fact that Luffy was more than sure now that his father was innocent and simply a fool, he never managed to forgive him for the events that lead to his mother's death, although he allowed him to visit them from time to time for Mai's sake. Today is a special day for the whole island, as it's Luffy's birthday, and this is a special event because Luffy had absolutely denied all previous attempts all those years to celebrate his birthday, saying that he's busy with his work, or he has to train to become stronger. But today Mai, Makino, Hancock and the whole Kujas decide to make him a surprise party, as they know now how Luffy works. So Makino told him yesterday that he doesn't need him in the morning, and it's better to come the noon for his shift, so he decided to continue his sleep as it was a rare thing. But someone knew better. As Luffy was sleeping peacefully, he suddenly feels someone to poke him on his cheek, make him to stir, growl, and finally to change side, making the little devil to pout. "Good morning, Nyson!" My shout, happily making the poor boy to drop from his bed with his face on the floor, and my to giggle as Luffy start to murmur various curses. "Good morning, my sweet innocent, my now, can you tell me why did you wake me up?" Luffy said slash ass with shark teeth as my now continued to laugh while NEA entered the room and start to sweat drop. "Oh, come on, Luffy knees, and I was bored and I want to go to explore," my said, pouting as Luffy start to shake his head from his little sister's antics. Okay, just give me some time to dress, and after we finish our breakfast we can go to explore," Luffy say to her as my threw her hands in the air from joy. Luffy put his favorite icy blue shirt, pants and his white vest while my her favorite blood red dress that Hancock has gave it to her on her birthday last year. Both of them with the accompany of NEA exited the room and start heading towards the garden to have breakfast. They good morning everyone, and they sit to take their breakfast with Gloriosa, Hancock, Mary and Sonia, while Salome decide to make NEA's life a little more difficult as Mai does usually, with Luffy making everybody to laugh except from Luffy and NEA, who sweat drop as both of them know the feeling of torture. The breakfast continued peacefully, well, a little too peacefully for Luffy's taste, as he start to look from Mai to Hancock and from Gloriosa to Mary with narrowing eyes, but in the end he shrugged it and continued his breakfast. After they finished, the five of them leave as Luffy said to Hancock that he have the afternoon shift and that Mai want to go for explore, so Luffy, Mai, Hancock, Mary, Sonia with Salome and NEA start to walk through the town, who they found Aphilandra, Marguerite and the other girls, and start heading to the jungle. As always, Mai decide to run ahead of them, making Luffy to enter panic mode and curse his luck and the rest of them to giggle. Mai had a few close calls, but Luffy and NEA was there just in time to push away all the dangers from the little girl. As they continue to explore for a few more hours, Luffy start to truly believe that something strange is happening with his friend's attitude, and he's utterly sure that he'll hate that something, whatever it is. Hancock, Aphilandra and Marguerite start to notice Luffy's mood, so they told him to have a little spar, something that might find it entertaining. They split in two teams, Luffy, Mai, Hancock, Marguerite and Ran versus Mary, Sonia, Aphilandra, Sweet Pea and Kikyo. Aphilandra with Sweet Pea and Kikyo decide to after Luffy, Marguerite and Ran, while Hancock and Mai aim to take down Sonia and Mary. The moment that Luffy's and Hancock's gaze meet, both of them vanish and the spar officially begin. Various slashes start to appear from nowhere, making Aphilandra to move away and dodge. At the same time, Sweet Pea and Kikyo start to launch themselves toward Marguerite and Ran, making a small craters. On the other hand, Hancock and Mai start to advance towards Sonia and Mary, but something that surprised all of them was how elegant Mai moving through the battlefield, and also the speed she's using to reach her opponents and to avoid hits and obstacles. The spar continued for some hour until Sonia find Mai with a little more power that she wanted originally, making all of them to look at Luffy with fear and Mai with worry. But none of them expect to see Luffy smirk and Mai to stand up as a violet aura start to emit for her, making all of them except from Luffy to look at the little girl with widened eyes. Before anyone can react or say anything, Mai disappear into thin air and reappear behind Sonia, ready to strike a powerful blow, but at the last minute Sonia dodged, and the blow ended on the ground, making a huge crater, making everyone to gasp, and at the same time Luffy to smile and walk towards his little sister, making her to calm and the aura to disappear. "Whoa, easy there, little sis," Luffy said, smiling to her as Mai turned and looked at her brother, titling her head at the side with questioning eyes and making everybody else to sweat drop. This was unfair. We said to spar, but this was a complete slaughter. Aphilandra start to protest as Marguerite and Ran stick out her tongues, making everybody to laugh. All of them start to heading back to the town as it's almost noon, and in a few hours Luffy start his shift at Makino's. A few hours later, Luffy just stepped out from his shower and start to dress for his work. He exited the room and start heading to Makino's bar with NEA at his side. He waited to find Mai sleeping, but he just remembered that he actually don't know what is Mai doing while he's at the work, so he shrugged and continued to walk. As he reached the bar, he see that the door is closed and Makino isn't here, so he opened the bar with his own keys, thinking that Makino will probably still sleeping or something came up. As he's ready to turn on the lights. "Happy birthday, Luffy, aye." Various voices shout as the light turned on, making Luffy to gasp and look around with widened eyes. In front of them was the whole Kuja warriors, his friends, his little sister, Hancock, Makino, Gloriosa and his Gramps. "What the when did you prepare all that, and when did you come here, Gramps?" Luffy asked them, frozen from the surprise as all of them walked towards him to hug him and wish him for his birthday. Makino start to bring a huge cake as Hancock with Mai start to light up the candles on the cake and everyone start to sing to him. Cap Omicron Alpha Psi Lambda Sigma Omicron Nu Omicron Upsilon Alpha Nu. Nu Alpha Alpha Sigma Tau Iota Mu Alpha Kappa Iota Nu. Cap Alpha Iota Kappa Nu Epsilon Tau Alpha Mu Iota Alpha Epsilon Upsilon Chi. Cap Alpha Iota Theta Alpha Beta Gamma Epsilon Iota Alpha Lambda Eta Theta Iota Nu. Chi Nu Iota Alpha Pi Omicron Lambda Lambda. Sigma Omicron Upsilon Epsilon Chi Omicron Mu Alpha Iota Nu Alpha Tau Alpha Epsilon Cap Alpha Tau Omicron Sigma Tau Sigma Epsilon Iota. Epsilon Sigma Pi Omicron Upsilon Tau Nu Zeta Omega Mu Omicron Upsilon Tau Alpha Gamma Epsilon Mu Zeta Epsilon Iota. Sigma Omicron Upsilon Epsilon Chi Omicron Mu Alpha Iota Alpha Gamma Pi Eta Mu Omicron Upsilon. Chi Rho Nu Iota Alpha Pi Omicron Lambda Lambda. As they finished the song, Luffy was holding with all his powers to not let the tears flow freely, but he was shaking heavy so Mai. Hancock and Garp rushed towards him to hug him, and after some minutes they succeed to calm the boy and he finally blow the candles out as all of them cheer him and Makino start to cut the cake, and at the same time the others start to bring the presents for Luffy. Most of the Kujus bring him clothes, treasures, swords, but the most surprising gift was from Garp, who he's holding 2 wooden boxes in each hand. Luffy, Mai, I want both of you to have this, Garp said as both Luffy and Mai opened the boxes and gasped as they revealed 2 devil fruits. As all of them walk towards the kids to see what causes this reaction, all of them look at the boxes with widened eyes and gulp. Inside of the one box is an orange light blue fruit, while at the other box is a pale lilac icy blue fruit. How is this possible? Hancock asked nobody in particular. If I remember right from the book, then the 2 of them are a hybrid devil fruits. The first is the Mera Mera no Mi and the Gura Gura no Mi, and the second the Ito Ito no Mi and the Hai Hai no Mi, Luffy said as all of them began pale from the powerful devil fruits. Luffy, are you sure that you want to eat it? The devil fruits give to the users amazing powers, but when someone eats them she cannot swim ever again, Hancock said to Luffy as he smirks. Well, I don't know for Mai yet, but this don't apply to me. Remember what I told you before, Luffy said to her as Hancock put a finger to her chin as she started to remember. Flashback, 2 years before. Luffy was training with Hancock, and she was very amazed from Luffy's skills. Despite the small period of time, Luffy was able to almost match her skills and to repel most of her attacks. After the training has ended, the 2 of them start to walk side by side, but Luffy was able to see clearly that something bothers Hancock. Hancock, I don't mind to ask me if you want, Luffy said to her as Hancock looked at him with widened eyes. Nah, it's okay, Luffy, Hancock said, blushing as Luffy started to frown. He stops and put a hand on her shoulder, making Hancock to gasp and turn around. Hancock, we're friends, aren't we? So tell me what is bothering you, Luffy asked / said with gentle voice and gaze, making Hancock to enter love mode once again. Yes we are, Luffy, yes we are, Hancock said with a bright smile as Luffy nodded his head, also smiling. Luffy, I don't complain or something, but how are you so strong? I mean, I know that your mom trained you, but how are you able to hone your skills and almost match mine so soon? Hancock asked him as Luffy smirked. Well, Hancock, the truth is that I'm not alone, Luffy said, making Hancock to look at him with questioning eyes. Luffy sighed and looked Hancock in the eyes, making her to gulp and almost flinch from the intensity of his gaze. Look, when my mom died, all her powers, techniques and knowledge that she had acquired all those years transferred to me as also her very own spirit when I touched her. Long story short, we became one very powerful entity, Luffy explained to her, making Hancock to look at him with widened eyes. End of flashback. Hancock looked at Luffy and smiled, making Luffy to smirk, and as he wants to prove a point, the moment he touched the fruit starts slowly to disappear, and at the same time Luffy's aura start to explode, but this time was several times more stronger than before, making everyone to sweat drop and gasp, while Mai start to look at her big brother with start in the eyes. So Mai, will you join me? Luffy asked as Mai looked from the box to her brother and back. After a minute or so, Mai touched her fruit, and the result was the same as Luffy's. The moment she touched the fruit, it started to slowly disappear, while her own aura started to explode, more powerful than ever before. The party continued for hours and hours until Mai was finally tired and started to sleep, making Luffy to take her and to return back to the castle to put her on the bed to sleep. All of them start to wondering what the future will bring to those 2 who it seems that they're born for big things. 4 more years has passed and Luffy with Mai start to have a very good grip at their powers. However, this didn't come at ease, especially with Mai's case, as she accidentally froze her brother a few times until Luffy with Hancock, Sonia and Mary begin to train her to have a grip on her powers. Flashback 3 years before. It was a usual day as ever. Luffy had already left from the palace to go to his job and Mai had just finished her training with Sonia and Mary with Hancock to observe closely. "You did a good job, Mai. You become better and better every day," Hancock said to her as Mai smiled at her. "Hancock Onizen," Mai said happily and with a bright smile. "Do you want to go see Luffy at Makino's bar?" Hancock asked as Mai nodded her head while she jumped up and down. The two of them left the training area with the company of Nya and start heading towards Makino's bar. After 15 minutes they reached the bar and as always Mai launched herself towards Luffy to hug him, only for this time to freeze Luffy completely, and shocking everybody including herself in the room. "Hey, Luffy Nizen dot what I'll do," Mai said, shouting and completely panicked, fearing that she accidentally hurt her big brother, while Makino, Hancock and everyone who was there tried to calm the poor girl and at the same time to find a solution for Luffy. All of them surprised happily as the ice start to slowly melt while a small fire start to lick Luffy's shoulders, fists and foots, evaporating the ice completely and showing a smiling Luffy. Immediately Mai rushed towards him to see if her big brother was alright and to say sorry for freezing him accidentally. Luffy smirks and pat her on the head. "It's okay, Mai, I'm fine. But you must be careful with your powers and also with your feelings. If you're too excited or too angry you may hurt someone by accident, and not all of them can unfreeze like me," Luffy said to her with gentle tone as Mai nodded her head and decided from tomorrow to begin training to control her powers. End of flashback. Now both kids have excellent control over their powers, with both of them to have a few signature moves. For Luffy are the NTI and the Akito-sen, while for Mai are the Partisan and the Tomato. Because of this attacks the Kujas start to call them NTI no Luffy and Partisan no Mai. But tomorrow is a special day as Hancock, who take the throne 3 years before as the new Empress of Amazon Lily, is prepared for her another trip with the Kuja pirates. Through the last years Hancock was able to make a name for herself as a very powerful and very dangerous pirate that made the Marines and the world government to put a bounty on her head for 100.000.000 million berry, but this didn't surprise anyone who really know her at all, as they all know how powerful Hancock is. We find Hancock on her room as she starts to prepare for her trip tomorrow when someone knocking the door. "Come in, it's open," Hancock said, and the door is open, revealing Luffy. "Hey Hancock, how are you, or should I call you Our Majesty?" Luffy said with a smirk, teasing Hancock, who blushed and pout at the same time. "I'm fine, Luffy, but come on, stop teasing me already. You know that I'll be always Hancock for you. The fact that I take this title means nothing, after all we're friends," Hancock said, frowning as Luffy started to laugh. Sorry, but you know how much I love to tease you," Luffy said, smiling as Hancock blushed once more again and nodded her head. "Anyway, I heard that you'll leave tomorrow, so I have a question to ask you," Luffy said to her as Hancock nodded him to continue. "For how long you'll be absent and where do you intend to go?" Luffy asked her as Hancock raised her eyebrow and put a finger on her chin, thinking. "Well, I believe a week or so. As to where I intend to go I don't know yet. But if I'm not curious, why do you ask?" Hancock asked him as Luffy nodded his head and smirked. "I see. Well, I ask because I intend to come with you if you haven't any problem with that," Luffy said to her as Hancock looked at him with widened eyes and surprise from his sudden decision. "Wait, Luffy, are you sure about this? I mean that you told us from the beginning that you'll not join us as a pirate, so what reasons do you have to come with us now?" "Not that I'm complaining or something," Hancock asked him, curious as Luffy smirked. "What I said, it's still on. I don't intend to join the Kujas. As for what are my reasons to come with you, let's say that you'll find them soon," Luffy said with a mischievous smile and started to walk away, leaving behind a happy but very confusing Hancock. The dinner was ready, so all of them come and sit at the table to eat, while Hancock stare at Luffy and Sonia, Mary with Mai stare at Hancock. "If you continue to stare you'll probably open a hole on her skull," Luffy said, smirking, making Hancock to look at her sisters, Mai to tilt her head and Luffy to laugh from their reactions. "Oh yeah, Mai, tomorrow I'll go with Hancock and I'll be absent for a week or so. I'll let here Nya to protect you, but I want to keep training with both Sonia and Mary and with your sword," Luffy said to her as Mai's eyes widened. "Nyasanen, it's not fair. I want to come with you too," Mai said, pouting as she launched herself towards her brother, protesting. Luffy sighed and brushed her hair to calm her down. Look, Mai, when you're a little older then you can go with Hancock and the girls too, or you can even come with me. But now you're too little, and it's still dangerous for you to come with me. After all, I have a job to do, I don't leave for fun, Luffy said to her, succeeded to calm her down, but what he said intrigued Hancock, Sonia and Mary. Okay, Neeson, Mai said as Luffy nodded her head and smiled at her. The five of them continue their dinner, and after a few hours when the dinner is over they go to their rooms to sleep. After several hours during the night, and when all of them was sleeping, Luffy suddenly felt a tag and immediately his hands go for his sword, but he soon find that his little sister was awake and at his side. Neeson, can I sleep with you tonight? Mai asked him with gentle and quiet voice. Sure, Mai, Luffy said, making room for her on his bed and cover her with his blanket. Are you had a nightmare? Luffy asked her with a gentle and concerned voice as Mai hugged him tightly. I don't want you to leave, she murmured. Huh, Luffy said. I don't want you to leave. When Gramps said that our mom leave for some business, she never come back, so I don't want you to leave, Mai said to him as Luffy turned and looked at her in her eyes with soft but pained gaze. Mai, you can't fear every time someone is leaving. It's not healthy. Also, I'll never leave you alone, little sis, you know that. How can I leave behind a weak little sister like you? Luffy said to her as Mai looked at him in his eyes pouting from his last comment. Look, Mai, no one live forever, but I'll swear to you that I'll never leave you behind no matter what, Luffy said as Mai nodded her head and started to sleep peacefully. The morning came and all of them start to wake up and dress to go for breakfast as they will leave soon. Luffy start to put his favorite clothes, but this time inside of his vest he put a series of daggers who was present from Hancock. Mai wake up also as she wanted to goodbye her brother and Hancock. They both dressed and exited the room, finding as always Nia outside of the door, and start heading to the garden for breakfast. They good morning Hancock, Sonia and Mary, while for one more time and once more again Salome begin to make Nia's life a little too difficult as usual, making also as usual everybody laugh except from Nia and Luffy. The breakfast lasts for half an hour, and when they finish all of them start to walk towards the town and to the port. Ah, Hancock, you look dashing today, by the way, Luffy said to her, making Hancock blush and enter love mode and daydream as usual. Oh, thanks, Luffy, you're magnificent also, Hancock said, making Luffy to look with widened eyes and smirk at her. Heim sama Luffy, the Kuja pirates shout from the ship as the two of them start to on board the ship. Luffy looked for a moment his little sister and smiled at her while she nodded her head as Luffy climbed on the ship, who Hancock ordered the Kujas to set the sail. As the ship start to sail away, Mai with Sonia and Mary start to leave the port to go for training. The days pass peacefully on the Amazon Lily, and as Luffy told her, Mai continue her training at freestyle fighting and also at the swordsmanship. From time to time she spar with Aphalandra and the other girls to measure her skills with them. She speak with her brother daily via a den mushy to learn how is he on some island in the Grand Line. The Kujas stop on some unnamed island to resupply, and also after Luffy's instruction, as it seems that Luffy is seeking someone but no one knows exactly who this person is. The crew go to various shops while Luffy start walking through the town with Hancock and Salome. After 30 minutes or so they reach a forest area, and as they continue to walk Luffy stops and grip the hilt of his sword tightly, alarming Hancock. Luffy, Hancock murmured. Hancock, be very still and keep quiet, Luffy said as he unsheathed his sword and launched an aerial attack forward, cutting some trees in half and revealing a group of 5 men. Who are you and what do you want? Luffy asked with serious and dark tone while Hancock's eyes widened. I have no business with you, brat. As to what I want is also not your business, the man said with a cold tone. You surely have grown beautiful, men, catch her, a tall hairy man continued to said as he turned his gaze now to Hancock. Luffy smirked at this with a sinister way while Hancock started to pale as she recognized the man as one of her and her sister's captor a few years before. Leave now or die, Luffy said with a darker tone that indicated a big amount of pain if they don't comply. The moment the 4 of them start to run towards him, and Hancock Luffy vanish in thin air and reappear behind them. As he sheathed his sword, the 4 of them drop on the ground and various slashes appear on them everywhere on their bodies. The leader looked at the young boy in front of him with widened eyes as fear started to build inside of him. Why, what are you? The man muttered as Luffy looked at him with bloodthirsty eyes. You should have left when you had still the chance. Now it's too late for this man and for you, Luffy said as he take out one of his daggers and throw it to the man to the point blank, killing him instantly. He walked towards the man removing his dagger and go back to Hancock, who looked at him with widened eyes. "He can't hurt you anymore, no one of them can hurt you anymore," Luffy said to her with a serious voice and gaze, leaving Hancock dumbfounded. She hurried towards him and hugged him tightly as she started to cry and thank him again and again as Luffy rubbed her back, saying it's okay. After some minutes, Hancock is finally calm and they ready to walk back to town when both of them hearing an applause. "Well done, child," a tall lean man with black hair and yellow eyes said as Luffy smirks and nod his head. "Well, it's an honor to hear that from the greatest swordsman in the world," Luffy said with a smirk that somehow is confusing Mihawk greatly, while Hancock is worried and take a fighting stance. The two of them look each other for a few minutes without to say anything, as the one trying to calculate the other. "Do you have free time for a little spar?" Luffy asked him with a smirk as Hancock widened her eyes while Mihawk narrowed his. "Sure, but if I may ask, why do you want to fight with me?" Mihawk asked him, intrigued. "It's not the ambition that drives me to fight you, but more likely to see if my knowledge about a certain thing is accurate or not," Luffy said, making Mihawk even more troubled. Both of them unsheathed their swords. Luffy immediately observed two things. First, it's that Mihawk looked intensely at his sword as if he recognized it from somewhere, and second, that Mihawk didn't go for his kagatana, and that means that he take him seriously. Both of them vanished before Hancock could do or say anything, but soon she find out where the two of them are. As the moment that the two swords collide, the landscape around them start to shatter, and the sky start to divide in two. They took some steps back and both of them launched to each other with splendid speed. Both of them dodged the attack of the other, and when the swords collide with each other, the sky cracks open and various thunders start to appear from everywhere as both smirking to each other. "Kakuto Samidare / barrier blast Mihawk / Luffy murmured as the first made a chain of forward slashes, finishing with a black flying slash, but Luffy jumped in midair and blast the slashes with his sword, pushing them back to Mihawk easily. He detached his sword in two blades with a smirk and looked at Mihawk. "Wings of the Sun," Luffy murmured as he swung his now burning blades around 3 times, damaging greatly Mihawk, and also surprising him greatly, who had lost him from his eyesight for a fraction of time. The two of them continue like this for a few more minutes, but with less intensity. Finally, after an hour or so, both of them are stopped and look each other as they sheath their swords back. Both of them had a few scratches and injuries, but Mihawk has much more injuries than Luffy and more severe. You're not bad at all," Luffy said as Mihawk stays silent and still. After a minute he decided to speak, and what he says surprised both Luffy and Hancock, who rushed to Luffy worried. "Why you didn't kill me? Most of the swordsmen were killed to have my title, so why you let me live and didn't take this title for yourself?" Mihawk asked with serious voice and gaze. Luffy sighed and looked Mihawk in the eyes. "First, you didn't do anything against me or to any of my friends to kill you. Second, I'm not like any other swordsman. And third, you can't give me something that isn't yours to give," Luffy said as he narrowed his eyes at his last sentence, while Mihawk looked at him quizzically and was ready to ask him when Luffy started to walk towards him. "Did you know the last person that hold this title?" Luffy asked him as Mihawk looked Luffy in the eyes. "No, I didn't know this person personally, but I had heard a few rumors," Mihawk said as his gaze turned to Luffy's sword, while Luffy see that and smirk. "So you never fight her, and you just take your title when she was disappear?" Luffy said as Mihawk's eyes widened. "You are her son," Mihawk stated as Luffy nodded his head. "I don't have anything with you, but what I told you today can't be known to anyone," Luffy said as Mihawk nodded his head. "What is your goal, child?" Mihawk asked him as Luffy raised his eyebrow and smirked. "To bring justice," Luffy said as he started to walk away with Hancock, but he soon stops and looked behind at Mihawk. "It was nice to meet you, Mihawk. I hope to meet you again sometime in the future," Luffy said as Mihawk smiled, actually and truthfully smiled at that. "I hope that too, Luffy," Mihawk said as Luffy nodded his head and continued to walk with Hancock. "He'll surely be an interesting person when he'll grow up and go out to the sea. I wonder if the world will be ready for his coming. Kukukuku, life just turned a little more interesting." Mihawk started to thought with a smile on his lips as he started to walk away to treat his injuries. Hancock stared at Luffy continuously as they walked, so Luffy smirked and looked at her. "If you want to ask, then ask," Luffy said as Hancock stared not at the floor, embarrassing. Luffy, that's the reason that you wanted to come with me, I mean us?" Hancock asked and corrected herself, but not before she blushed while Luffy smiled at her. I come with you not only because I wanted to see my Hawk but also because you don't trust me enough," Luffy said, making Hancock to look at him with widened eyes and to protest about what he just said. "Luffy, how can you imply that I don't trust you enough? You are my best friend and one of the few people who I truly love and respect," Hancock said, frowning and with real conviction in her voice. Luffy sighed and took Hancock's hand in his. "Look, Hancock, yes, we're best friends and maybe even something more," Luffy said as Hancock gasped and looked at him with widened eyes. "But you never told me your story despite that I have told you almost anything about me and my life. I know that this subject is very difficult and painful for you, but you know that you can trust me," Luffy continued to say as Hancock started to tear and nod her head. "I'll tell you whatever you want to know when we return back to Amazon Lily," Hancock said as Luffy nodded his head and continued to walk back to the ship while Luffy still holding her hand. Thanks for watching this video. You really enjoy this video. Like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow Night Whispery for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.